Good morning. I'm here to talk with you about reality. And it's a reality that many people don't want to accept as being the truth. It's really disturbing that the government chooses to not be honest with the people about this weapon known as remote neuromonitoring. It's a huge problem because it takes people out of the society and it allows them to never have participation in relationships or friendships because people don't believe it. Perps have a vital role in this weapon becoming known. Their role is to make sure that people understand that it is real. Any perp that's out there that is not spreading truth is part of the problem. And as more and more people use the program, the more likely it is that a leak will happen. This is why. There are many good people who use this program for nefarious purposes. At some point, a person's conscience catches up to them, and they eventually come to the realization that they're going to go to hell. I cannot believe that out of all the perps that are out there, that they would allow themselves to go to hell for having participated in a genocide program that is the government's surveillance program. You see, a couple of things are going to happen, probably all at the same time. One of them is that microwaves cause cancer. It's been widely known for, oh my gosh, since the 50s that microwaves cause cancer and they deteriorate tissue, can eviscerate bone, and can destroy organs. All of this is done with microwaves, targeting specific areas of the body, because each area has a frequency to it. If you want to attack somebody's big toenail, you can do that by delivering the right frequency in a received signal. Coming from, where do you think they're coming from? Well, they're coming from a number of different places. They could be coming from cell towers. They could be coming from military bases with transmitters on premises, or they could be coming from a satellite. So where the received signals are being transmitted to a target come from is, I guess, only the government's knowledge. I have a strong suspicion that it is all from military installations because of the fact that only they, with the Air Force, could put things in space or in low Earth orbit, since we've never been to space before. Only the military has access to whatever is on a military base. And microwaves travel for tens of thousands of miles, and the signal is not disturbed. So all of those things point to this being military. And the fact that it's a military-grade weapon is another fact. You know, it's disturbing that the media has chosen to not talk about this very, very important weapon system that is global and affecting about 2 million people worldwide. The whole thing about COVID, and COVID being a communicable illness, is not the case. You can't catch COVID, and there's nothing that is different between variants. Fauci saying that is a really important point. It points to some things being true about COVID that the media is just simply not covering. The first thing is how people of varying income levels are affected differently for something that is supposedly catchable. I'm going to illustrate something for you that might help. Here is my truth to deliver today. And I have run out of a pen ink, but that's okay. All right. In an ideal world, you would expect or want income level to have an equal amount of population. That's not the case. The truth is, this is more likely the case. We have an upper income level that's very small. Then we have a area of middle income that is a bit larger, but the large majority of people are in the lower income bracket. When we look at the numbers, and I'm going to go to the World Health Organization COVID dashboard, and I'm going to give you numbers that are current today. The reason I'm going to do this is because people need to understand the reality of what is going on. Right now, there have been 610 million cumulative cases. When I go to the World Bank income, what we see is 368 million people have had COVID. There's two levels, interestingly, between the middle income and the lower income. 158 million plus 81 million. And then the lower income, there's only 81 million. So when you look at these numbers, they don't match up. 158 plus 81 is 237 million. I think I did that right in my head. So what we're comparing is numbers, and I circled them in the millions, that look like this. So the largest number, 368 million, compared to 237, and then compared to 81 million, does not make sense. Poor people also live in more heavily populated areas, and many live in apartments or in condominiums. They are not spread out like the upper and lower middle class, and certainly aren't as close together as the high income bracket. So the disparity that exists is a huge problem for people looking at COVID numbers, because the truth of the situation does not match. the numbers. If we look at the first two countries, which are the United States and India, I'm going to compare these two for you right now. In the US, there are 94.5 million people that have gotten COVID, compared to 44 million in India. India is 33% the size of the United States. On top of that, India has a population 3 times the United States. So, when you look at COVID cases and you take a look at what's going on, you come up with a very different picture than it being a communicable illness. On top of that, though, is another surprising fact, and it has to do with the number of deaths and the crazy disparity in just the last 7 days. If this is a global illness, then people should be getting sick consistently across borders. There shouldn't be outbreaks of anything. The truth that the medical industry is being urged to call the death of people COVID-related is also a truth, at least in the United States. This is especially true in hospitals, but there is also truth in other medical professionals knowing what is going on. And in fact, when it comes down to remote neural monitoring, it's the medical and academic institutions that are keeping this government secret. And the reason they're doing that is for money, because they get grants and they get to do experiments with the program and they get to use it So there's a large number of things that are absolutely true that the medical industry is hiding from becoming known. A medical professional can lose their license if they go against whatever the larger umbrella organization says is true. If they come out against the narrative, they can lose their license. And that's just a simple fact. So what's going on when it relates to size of groups of population and then countries being vastly different, you have to wonder what's really causing all the deaths. And to say that 3 million deaths worldwide are COVID related is just simply a lie. The whole COVID thing is to keep people indoors and keep people isolated from one another and not let them gather, which affects their First Amendment right. Freedom of assembly. So people are not able to, quote, protest or be visible in a way that the media would catch what's going on. If everybody is isolated and at home, the media is not going to cover what's going on. The truth of the Air Force having the capability of locking on and monitoring the movement of everybody on the globe using radar is a truth. The technology is in use. And my belief is that we are the only ones that have this global weaponized system, because if other foreign powers had this technology, you would see people dropping in the streets just for no reason at all. I encourage you to do research and to think about logic that is different from a narrative that you've been told. It's extremely important that you use your analytical skills and you use your natural, inquisitive mind as you research, because things like this do not make sense. It's extremely important that the truth be known because it affects people's ability to live a life. The agenda is to eliminate people from the population. This is a goal that is government sponsored. The belief that we are overpopulated has been something that has been written about. And been talked about. The fact that there is a new world order to take over the responsibility of governing the world is an agenda. It truly is. These are not conspiracy theories, and as time is moving forward, we are learning more and more of the truth. There is nothing that government should be doing with the bodies of the people because it is invasion of privacy. It's bad enough that there is invasion of privacy going on with the waves past a person's property line and invading their personal space. It is most certainly a nuisance. It's a bodily nuisance because it affects the human body. So as we move forward and people are scared and we keep moving forward with this death agenda, I wonder how long it's going to be until people wake up. Because things will cascade. When people put two and two together, it will make a difference. I'm going to ask you to research a couple things. And the reason I'm going to ask you to research these things is because they are all true. And there are two things that I will talk about now, and it has to do with the bottom two items. Because I'm done talking about the top. 3. Research microwave bioeffects. V2K and RNM. Are actually connected, but they are two separate events. 9/11, I just want to tell you one truth. We all saw a building standing and a plane coming in to the building. Which do you think is stronger? A building or an airplane that's made with a metal frame? I'm going to give you a second to think about it. Use your brain. Think. Now that you have come up with that answer, I'm going to talk to you about physics. Because when an object collides with another object, there are principles in place that make a truth known that's different from what you've been told. Because the plane is flimsy and can crack and wings fall off and tails disattach, because of that fact, when the building, which was standing, met with the plane, what we saw was the plane going completely inside the building, like a knife through butter, which is opposite of the truth, you see. The plane is more flimsy than the building, and the principle of physics of two items colliding does not match. There's one more truth I'm going to leave you with. When the plane came into the building, why was there never any debris that fell to the sidewalk below? Because there is footage of people walking beneath on the sidewalk right next to the building. 15, 20 minutes after the smoke started to billow from above. Now, I'm not saying that planes were not involved in the other attacks around the nation, although it is pretty amazing how they were able to hit the Pentagon in such a way that kind of defies the ability of the pilot, because it wasn't even the pilot that was manning the plane. It was an individual that hijacked it and had very little experience flying a plane. So the fact that they were able to make a bank turn and then come down lower and then come across is just simply not the truth. I suspect that the Pentagon was intentionally hit to do a number of things, mostly to destroy evidence of programs like evidence of a plan to do this with a hologram. So destroying the evidence was the reason that the Pentagon was hit. There was also something involved with Donald Rumsfeld and a whole bunch of missing money. Now, the last item, which is NASA being on the moon, I want to share with you one simple fact. And you can check this out on your own. It's very important. The reason it is important is because, according to NASA, today, they say the biggest challenge of what the Van Allen belts are two rings or donuts around the Earth. There's one that is closer and one that is further apart. They are highly charged ionic and non-ionic cosmic radiation, and it is called our magnetosphere. Through the magnetosphere, all cosmic waves would penetrate into the Apollo capsules, because things like microwaves and gamma waves travel right through metal. There's also something else that is true. The Apollo capsules had windows, which is only glass, and the waves would come into the capsule through the window. Why is this important? Well, because of the amount of highly charged particles, a person would pretty much immediately die. So why in 1969 did people not die when they supposedly went to the moon? You know? The amount of time that they would be in the magnetosphere belt, known as the Van Allen belts, is long enough to kill human beings. It's also enough to disrupt electronics and make electronics not work. Let's talk about electronics for a minute, because this is a big one. Here's an iPhone. The amount of technology inside of this phone is equivalent to the technology that the most sophisticated computers had in the world in 1969. So, the amount of technology inside of this supposedly got people to the moon 50 years ago. My cell phone does not allow me to travel to the moon. It's just simply a lie that we've been there, because we've never been there. Why am I sharing this with you? Why am I telling you all these things that are not true? And why am I telling you these truths that are? When you look at NASA's budget, they spend about $2 billion a year on manned exploration of the moon and of other planets. That money is approved by Congress, and the fact that our hard-earned tax dollars are being spent on something that we can't accomplish is a big problem. It's called fraud. There's only one thing that will change Congress's mind about things. And every year, Congress passes the Patriot Act. And the Patriot Act is tied to 9/11, which removes our constitutional rights. With our constitutional rights removed, the executive branch has authority to do illegal investigations because they are unconstitutional and they are actually violations of human rights. So you see, that's how things are all connected. And if NASA has an extra $2 billion to play with, you better believe they're putting things into low Earth orbit, not space. Low Earth orbit. Do you know how I know that we've not been to space? We don't have satellites in space. In space, there are no forces working on anything. It is, in essence, a timeless, directionless space. It's heaven. Because an eternity happens in space. An object in space will continue its trajectory and speed forever, unless it is drawn into the gravitational pull of a planet or a star. So the fact that all satellites need to be traveling at a certain speed and are all slowly coming down to Earth proves that we've never been to space. Because if we've been to space, then a satellite would stay still. We would make it stationary and not have any movement. And it would never need to be pushed back up into space. I'm an honest person. I do not lie. And today, in a fight to save my life and get truth out there, I am not believed. I have learned so much about the world, but I don't have a voice because of the police and psychiatry. There is a belief among all my friends that I am mentally not well. I have to tell you, I am more mentally aware of what is going on in the world than you could ever understand. I'm more connected to the truth than most people who are alive today. And I'm not saying that to gloat. I'm saying it because it's the truth. I'm sharing this with you today because there needs to be a growing consciousness of the population of what truth is. Our government of the United States reminds me of the Wizard of Oz. Behind a curtain, pulling levers and knobs, and toying with the people's perception of the world. They always point to the people that tell the truth as being part of a conspiracy or being a conspiracy theorist. I've got to tell you something. Every single conspiracy theory holds some truth to it. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a conspiracy theory. So, just like with the Kennedy assassination, which we've recently found out, the conspiracy theory is the truth. You know, it's just amazing. the lack of trust people have in a story that is of a minority status. And people believe what they are told rather than what makes sense. My government is the most powerful in the world, and the only thing more powerful than the government is the Department of Defense. They pretty much are ruling everything. If my government chooses to stay in power, the way that they're going to get there and stay there is by delivering truth to the people. By delivering truth, there's nobody who would be powerful enough to dislodge that power, except for the military. But our military is too strong. They're too powerful. And that truth is just really disturbing. Because the military does not care about the people. They care about their mission. They've been brainwashed to follow orders, and the orders always have to do with a mission. So I'm going to leave you with this thought. What mission could the military be on today? Think about it. Because that mission only means one thing. And then you can understand why things are the way that they are today. The military, my own national defense, is not defending freedom. They're taking it away so that they can control the world population. Their mission, and I'm going to tell you what it is, because you might not come up with it. Their mission is to control everything in the world. That is the mission. And the reason that we have COVID around, and the reason that RNM is being used to murder people and commit genocide, is so that there are less people to control. If the military can reduce the population enough, then it can take over the world. This is a very serious game that's actually happening in real life. And it's not being talked about. It's not being debated. Nothing is being discussed. And in America alone, there are 10,000 people who are suffering every day and being filled with cancer waves because our government is transmitting them. That's a lot of people. It's not when you think about the whole population. But there's a ripple effect that happens when somebody is targeted. My sphere of influence is about this big in the world. Because people disbelieve my experience. So I don't have any influence at all among my family, among my friends, and it all comes down to people disbelieving the truth. If you know the truth, please start spreading the truth. Because spreading lies is going to keep us technologically where we are today. And nothing will ever change. I want to see innovation and invention happening around the world. And it's not because the government is keeping all the technology. Let me tell you one more truth. Then I'll let you go because I'm keeping this to an hour in length. The Patent Office, which gives rights to inventions and ownership of inventions, is the government. And every time that they approve a innovation or invention, they have the right to play with it. So even if somebody says that they own it, the government can still experiment with it and all sorts of other things. What's interesting is the technology that we have today, which is partly alien. If you look at the language in the applications, it talks about as if in the future it can do this. It uses the future tense. So I'm going to leave it to you. Have a good day.